But I hope it's making a difference for you. I hope this is getting things to be clarified and strengthened and encouraging you in the endurance. Now, I know it's been a few weeks since I talked about the blessed is the man, but you got to focus on that part first. That's step one. Go remember and read all the verses and listen to the teachings again that talk about what that part is. Now, we haven't posted it, but it's still there in the archive of the live streams. Go to the Sukkot teachings, and you can go listen to the teachings. Blessed is the man. Blessed. You got to become that man first, or woman, so that it becomes actually that much easier to endure the trial. Then also you have to embrace to the bone, to the marrow, why you're doing this. Well, I'm doing this to receive the crown of life. How real is that to you? Okay? You've got to find what part of this is as real can be to make it worth suffering through something. Because you're going to suffer through some pretty miserable things. And whatever you're suffering through, the only reason you're going to endure is if you got to have the eye on the prize. And that prize has to be so real to you. You know, we're about to go into the Olympics again, I think coming up at some point here. And when we deal with the Olympics again, you're going to see people, if you watch, you don't have to watch. Some people say, oh, you can't watch that, it's all pagan. Oh, it's athletics, who cares? The point is, you're watching people, if you watch, who did what you need to do. Find a prize that they hold up higher than any other thing in their life, and they're willing to change everything about their life to have that prize. That's why it's worth watching, to see the commitment to a little stupid piece of gold on a string around their neck, on a ribbon. That they would live for 8, 10, 15 years, 20 years of their life committed to a regiment of disciplining their body and their mind so that they could win. Guess what? You need to do the same thing. You got to discipline your body and your mind so that you can win. But what you're going for is a crown of life, not a stupid piece of gold on a ribbon. Okay? And so you should be impressed with those people. Not because they're doing it for a piece of gold, but just that they could actually do it. That they could give up friends, that they could give up family, they give up all kinds of worldly pleasures that they normally would be involved in, but they couldn't because of the need to have their body and their mind in a certain place, and say, how can I learn from them and apply it here? That's what Paul tries to do over and over again. We didn't read it today. We're going to read it in the next part. We talk about the crown of life, but he talks about these athletes running the race to win, to receive the crown. And by the way, he was talking about things like the Olympics, where they would receive a laurel crown. Okay, the winners would receive a crown, not so much a little hunk of gold on a ribbon, but they would crown the winners. Except our crown is eternal life. That's what you have, that you're running a race for. And you have to give up some things to get there. And that's why I want you to be impressed with some of these athletes, their willingness to give up in order to receive just that prize. What are you willing to give up or tolerate or endure? Because these athletes have endured workouts, injuries, pain, pushing their bodies and their minds beyond limits that normally we would not be able to go beyond in order to get just that little stupid piece of gold. And I say it that way because that's all it is. Somebody went into a factory type place where they, like a mint, and they actually took the gold and they made it into a shape of a circle and embossed it with a thing, and that's it. I mean, look, we've got our coin, right? The MTOI coin that we went and made, and it's just a little silver piece of coin, right? We've made this. But, it's just a silver coin. It has no other value. It's a couple of dollars, whatever. But we're talking about a crown, the crown of life. What wouldn't you do for that? Well, the answer is a lot of things you wouldn't do for it if it's not that real to you. How real is it to you is what matters. This is part 2 of the sermon. Okay? How real is it? And that's what you have to do. These athletes have in their mind that there will be no greater joy than to stand on a podium with a gold medal and hear their national anthem played. I mean, this is their ultimate. As a matter of fact, a lot of them have problems later in life. I'm only guessing because after that's all done, now what do? You had your whole life is committed to something. Now you've gotten there. Now what? We don't have that problem because when we get to ours, that is the rest of our life. Okay? And to get there, we'll have developed a lifestyle that is good forever. They can't keep up their lifestyle when they get older. It's too hard to do. You need a young body to do it. They'll get to an age where they can't physically do what they were doing. What we're going to do, no age matters. No physical condition matters. It can always be done no matter what condition you're in. So what you have to do is you have to find a way to make that so real that nothing else matters. See, Yeshua had no problem when it says he didn't count it a big deal to be spit on and persecuted and scourged. Now, he didn't like it. It was the worst thing that anybody's ever gone through. Worse than just burning at the stake, worse than just being crucified. They literally were ripping skin off of him. They were scourging him, which means they were hitting him with things with hooks in it, ripping skin off of him. I mean, they did all these horrible things to him, but he counted it of no big deal, so to speak, because he knew what enduring that would bring. And what are you going through? Well, you're whining about all kinds of nonsense, nothings. Now, it's not nothing to you. Some of you might be dealing with a family situation where you might be facing divorce. That's harsh. Or losing children that might not talk to you ever again, or at least that's what they're telling you. That's harsh. Or you may be facing a health issue that might be life-threatening. Well, that's harsh. And all kinds of other things. Losing jobs, losing the ability to pay for it, whatever it is. But what about what you're holding on to as the prize? Like Stephen, when they were stoning him, and he just looked up at the heavens and he said, I guess my trial and my test is over. I get to graduate. And he was ready to graduate. And so I just want to encourage us all. This is in every motivational video, teaching, and teacher out there will tell you, you have to get your why big enough. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I don't want to die. All right? You either have to be really afraid of death or really excited about eternal life in order to really motivate you. I don't care which one. Both work. But you'll do more for the carrot than for the stick if the carrot's the right thing, because that'll really motivate you. Because at some point, you can beat that animal, and it just lays down anyway and ignores you, because the stick isn't enough. And you could do that with anybody. You could beat on them, and at some point, the beatings don't matter anymore. But if they have that carrot to drive them and motivate them, and you need to find your why. He tells you what it is in here, but which part of it can you hold on to with everything you've got? So that's what you're holding in your hand strongly and just gripping onto when you're in those terrible trials. And then open it up and look and go, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm enduring. And you can close it back up and hold on to it. Hopefully that makes some sense. All right, questions, comments as we close up the teaching? Now that I gave you a second mini teaching.
That was really encouraging to see that carrot and really understand what we're motivated. But I've really been having a hard time recently with a couple of my friends. And one of them's had serious health problems all his life. And he's going through some more. And I try to encourage, and the other one's going through a divorce. And it's been a year, and it's dragging on and on. And I get to a point that I try to encourage, and I've been trying to encourage all the way along. And a lot of what I've learned, I've kind of put out there, and they can see at times. But then there's another part of me when they're crying or they're really upset on the phone that I pray for them, and I say, Father, why do they have to go through this? And I remember, that we grow through trials and we are refined by those trials. And then I wonder, when I'm listening today, should I really be, there's a point that it says pray for those, and I'm wondering here, I'm praying for it to be a lot less, the trial that they're going through, or to be over faster. But am I going against God's perfect will in this? So I'm kind of wondering, where do I find that balance?
Okay, so first and foremost, what we want to be praying for is for them to have a much more deep and abiding, proper and correct relationship vertically. Because a lot of times we're praying for people that are not Torah observant. They don't understand Mashiach Yeshua. They don't understand the Heavenly Father. They don't understand any of these things. They do on maybe some little surface level, some of the things that they've been taught through the years, through their churches or wherever they came from. But the thing is, we have to first and foremost pray, Abba, if they would have the right relationship with you, they would not be afraid in their trial. Okay? But this is one of those challenges we have. We pray for our family members when they're going through things, and then the family members keep wondering, why does this keep happening to me, and why doesn't this seem to work? Maybe because there's something you're not doing. It's not just about praying about it. Maybe he's allowing it because you're supposed to actually be changed by it. In other words, in the suffering, you make a decision to do something different than you've been doing. And that's the kind of thing that you want to talk to them about. It's like, look, I can pray for you and give you all the words of encouragement, but then you're still dealing with the person without the roots. They'll only be encouraged while you're talking to them. And as soon as you take that plug away from them, that you unplug the motivation that you're giving them, they're going to wallow right back into the abyss emotionally. But if you plug them into the true source of encouragement, you don't need to do anything. But they need to get that right. And I'm not saying that the reason they're suffering is because they don't have the relationship. What I'm saying is if they got the relationship, they would be able to deal with the suffering in a much better way. Does that make sense? They'll still suffer probably. Some of them might not. He may do some miraculous things, but a lot of them will still suffer. But you will not be suffering without that ability to endure. You'll be able to endure the suffering. Okay? That's a whole different mindset. And that's what you want to help them with. Look, if they're dying and really suffering and they're going through this miserable stuff, if they can't listen then, they're never going to listen. That's when you say, look, what do you have to lose? I have an answer for you. Give it a try. See if it might not help you. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine, and keep suffering, but don't keep complaining to me. I don't want to sound callous and cold. I'm just saying, I'm going to offer you a solution. If you don't want it, then that's fine, but don't keep whining to me when I've already offered you the solution. Person sitting there whacking their hand with a hammer, and they're whining to me, and I say, I got an idea. How about you stop hitting your hand? No, that's stupid. Well, then don't complain to me. I told you what to do. And so at some point, I think it's appropriate to say in a loving, gentle, as much as way you can, say, look, I've told you as best I can what to do. I don't have anything more to say. If you're not willing to do it, I don't know what else to tell you. I'll continue to pray that your suffering is minimal, but, I've offered you a solution. That's all you can do. You can't make them do it.
2 questions from the live stream from David Botwick Rice. In the parable of the sower, do you think there is a particular order of wrong regarding the different soils? 1, not understanding. 2, too excited with no root. And 3, thorny and selfish.
I don't know that there's an order. I think they describe 3 different types of ground. I think that some people can go through and have their ground become more than one of those at different times. But it could certainly just be talking about 3 completely different, people and dealing with what they're dealing with. Okay, by the wayside, the stony ground and the good ground, etc. And so it's not like some of the other things that are sort of progressive. I mean, there are going to be people that you see that don't get real excited initially. And they kind of plod through it a little bit more meticulously, a little slower, and they process. But they may have the thorny problem or the stony problem as opposed to the I got all excited problem. Okay? And so I don't think that it's necessarily one of those parables where we all journey through all of them. We may have had experience with more than one of them, but I don't think that we necessarily do all of them or in any particular order. Okay? Next question.
From Monica Hughes. It says in Romans 12:17, it says, respect what is right in the sight of all men. Does this mean to respect others' beliefs or something else?
Think about the sentence, and you know what? I was going to talk about it when I read it, and I don't know what happened. My mind went somewhere else. Respect what is right. Okay? In other words, behave in a respectful manner and deal with what is right in a respectful manner and do it where others will see you. Does that make sense? He's not talking about respecting the other people, although you should show respect and honor to everybody in a certain amount of, so that you're not treating people rude and harsh, but giving the right respect due. And by the way, you can respect people and treat them with respect and completely disagree with them. Okay? But at the same time, he says, respect what is right and do that in front of others. So make sure in front of people that you are showing the proper respect for what is right, the Torah issue. That you're not disrespecting the Torah issue in front of people. Okay, that's the Romans 12 thing. I was going to say that, and I don't know what happened. I kept going through the verses and got past that, but that was what I wanted to get from Romans 12, is that, don't miss the subtlety of some of the wording in there. Okay? What it's talking about here, it says, look, let me just see where that verse was. Verse 17. Okay, it says, repay no one evil for evil. Respect what is right. Okay, let's start off with that part. Show respect and behave respectfully to what is right. What is right? Torah. That's the things that are right. He says, and do this in the sight of all men. In other words, don't be ashamed to do this only in private, but also in public, to show respect. My boss says to me, well, you need to come in on Saturday. I appreciate that. I understand that you really need me to come in on Saturday, but it's Shabbat, and I have to respect and honor that it's Shabbat, and I'm not afraid to say that in front of you, my boss, even though I know that may get me fired. Okay? So hopefully that makes some sense in chapter 12, verse 17. Okay? But also treat others with respect, because now you also have the context of, he says, look, repay no one evil for evil, and if possible on your part, be at peace with all men. Do it in a respectful way. You don't go, what's wrong with you, moron? It's Shabbat. I can't work on Shabbat. You pagan. Treat everybody with as much respect as you can. We're supposed to be the ones that are taking the higher ground. In every situation where possible, always take the high ground. Okay? It's easy to take the low ground and just start throwing the mud like everybody else.
From Amy Cisco, could you elaborate on Romans 12:10 that says giving preference to one another?
In brotherly love, tenderly loving towards one another, in appreciation, giving preference to each other. Okay, so you have two things that are going on here. First of all, you should prefer to be with each other. So first of all, you should be giving preference to being with each other. Your preference should be you. The group should be the preference. That's why I love seeing, like the Huertas were hosting an Erev Shabbat, and all those people were there. Everybody preferring each other's company. Okay. But also, when it talks about in other places, esteeming others above yourselves or not showing preferences, that all things being equal, why do I have to have it my way when I can let it be your way if it's not a Torah issue? Okay? You might find this shocking, but you can come to my house, and generally speaking, I don't control the controller of the TV. I don't control where we go to eat. I do have some diet problems now, but when we didn't have diet problems, I don't try to put my preference above everybody's. That's not so you all think I'm such a wonderful guy. I'm just saying that's what it's talking about. Okay? Unless it actually matters. And I is not what makes it matters. It's the Yahweh stuff that makes it matter. If it's not a Yahweh thing, When I got married, I told my wife, I said, you can throw anything out of the house except me. Because she moved into my place. And she started to ask me like 5 million times, can I get rid of this? Can I get rid of that? Can I do this? And I said, okay, enough. Isn't that true? I got tired of the questions. I said, let's make it simple. You can do whatever you want except get rid of me. And then also my denim jacket, but that was a different thing. She didn't know about a man and his denim jacket. All right. I had to educate her. Okay. She goes, but it's old. I says, yes, exactly. Okay. The stories it could tell, actually, let's get rid of it. Now that I think about it, we don't need it telling any stories. Get out of here. All right. So hopefully that answers that question for Amy. Anybody else? And Amy, thank you for asking a question in Romans when I was already in Romans. I didn't have to turn the page or anything.
From Nate Taylor, could the rocky soil also be those that receive because of terrible circumstances, and then it's emotional, and then once their situation's over, they forget?
Read that to me again.
Could the rocky soil also be those that receive because of terrible circumstances? It's emotional, and then when their situation is over, they forget.
There could be some of that in there. You know, there could be a little bit of that in there. Okay, so the rocky one, where they hear the word, immediately receive it with joy. Well, yeah, I mean, they could be those that were in a challenging circumstance, and then someone came with a solution, and they got all excited and received it with joy, and then they forgot, what got them there in the first place, and they get into, next thing you know, they get complacent, and they find themselves in a trial all over again. I mean, that certainly could be. And I don't know why when Nate talks, my beard starts itching. I don't know. It just itches so much. Anyway, that was just for Nate. Okay. Well, I pulled it out earlier, and I never scratched my beard. It just, You're wondering about that, right? Okay. All right. Children with little parents. I can say that without any hesitation since I is one. Okay. Ready, here we go.